There are some true crime cases that are heartbreaking because they're unsolved, and then there are the ones that are heartbreaking because it feels like the answers may have been there all along. 19-year-old Amber Wilde was a college student in Green Bay, Wisconsin. She was described as smart, family-oriented, and full of plans for the future. She wanted to become a pediatrician, and she was also pregnant. And then in September of 1998, Amber disappeared. No confirmed sightings, no explanation, and days later, her car was found abandoned near Lambeau Field. But what investigators found inside the car only made the case much more disturbing. Her purse was there, her keys were there, her phone was there, and the driver's seat had been pushed all the way back. And the meter showed hundreds of miles that no one could explain. And then more than two decades later, Amber has still never been found, and investigators have said that they believe that she was killed. They have named a person of interest, but no one has ever been charged. The deeper you look into this case, the more it starts to feel like someone knows exactly what happened. Today, we're talking about the disappearance of Amber Wilde. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Danica, and on this channel, we talk about true crime cases that are disturbing, suspicious, and sometimes deeply overlooked. And today's case is one of the most haunting cold cases out of Wisconsin. And before we get into that, please remember that this is an unsolved case, and I'm sharing the facts, the investigation, and the publicly reported details, but no one has been convicted in Amber's disappearance. With that being said, let's get into it. Amber Wilde was just 19 years old when she disappeared in 1998. She was a student at the University of Wisconsin, Green Bay, and by all accounts, she had a lot going for her. I mean, family members described her as determined, loving, and very close with the people in her life. She had big goals and hoped to become a pediatrician one day. She lived alone in an apartment on August Street in Green Bay, and even though she was young, she seemed to be someone who took her responsibilities seriously. But in the months before she vanished, Amber's life had become much more complicated. She was pregnant, and according to investigators and later reporting, that pregnancy may have been the center of everything wrong. This is where the case starts to shift from tragic to deeply suspicious. According to investigators, Amber was pregnant with a child believed to belong to a man who she had been involved with. That man was later publicly identified in court and was reported as the father of an unborn child and a person investigators focused on very early in this case. Now, because this is an unsolved case, I want to be very clear. He has never been charged, and I'm not going to say that he is responsible as a fact. But investigators had repeatedly said that they had serious concerns. According to reporting, the man was allegedly not cooperative with the police, and detectives later said that he gave statements that they believe are false, and they described him as defensive rather than helpful. And that's important because in so many missing person cases, the behavior after someone vanishes can become just as suspicious as what happened before. Amber disappeared on September 23rd, 1998 in Green Bay, Wisconsin. She was 19 years old. Earlier that day, Amber had reportedly been involved in a minor car accident and hit her head on the windshield. Family members later said that she spoke with her dad and told him to call her the next day to make sure that she was okay. That detail alone is haunting because she was planning for tomorrow and she expected to be there to answer that phone call. According to the FBI's VCAT page, Amber's last known contact was a call that she made from her landline in her apartment at 7:16 p.m. that night. And after that, nothing. No confirmed sightings, no verified calls, no signs that Amber voluntarily walked away from her life. The next day, Amber's father tried to call her and she did not answer, which was unusual. And according to reporting, Amber also missed commitments that people said that was out of character for her, which included classes and appointments, and her father eventually drove to Green Bay, went to her apartment, and realized something was very wrong. Amber wasn't there and neither was her car. Her family reported her missing, and I feel like one of the most frustrating details of this case is according to Amber's family, they were told to wait 48 hours before filing a missing persons report. Now, that could have been either miscommunication or outdated thinking at the time, but we all know that the early hours in a missing persons case are crucial. In Amber's case, every lost hour may have mattered. When police looked into Amber's apartment, there reportedly wasn't anything that pointed to a violent struggle, and nothing major seemed out of place. And I feel like cases like this can be so difficult because when there's no obvious scene, investigators are left trying to reconstruct a person's last movements from tiny details. And in Amber's case, one of the most important details would not appear until days later: her car. About a week later, on October 1st, 1998, Amber's car was found abandoned in Green Bay near the Lambeau Field. And it was in the parking lot of the former 50-yard line sports bar and the Roadstar Inn. And this is the moment where the case goes from concerning to chilling, because Amber's car didn't look like the car of someone who just wanted to start a new life. It looked like the car had been placed there. Inside of Amber's car, investigators found items that immediately raised red flags. Depending on the source, details vary slightly about exact placement, but multiple official and news sources agree that her purse, cell phone, and keys were all recovered with the vehicle. The FBI states that the purse, cell phone, and keys were found in the unlocked vehicles, and then local reporting says that her purse and cell phone were in the trunk, while her keys were either in the ignition or the ashtray. Either way, the important point is this: the things Amber would normally need and the things that most people would take with them were left behind. And then there was a driver's seat. Police had noticed that the seat had been pushed all the way back, and Amber was around 5'5" to 5'6", depending on the source, so investigators found that the seat position was unusual for someone her size, leading them to suspect that someone taller may have been the last person driving her car. This is one of the details that instantly makes your stomach drop, because it suggests that Amber may have not been the last person in control of her own vehicle. And then there's a detail that a lot of people remember about this case: the miles. Amber's car had hundreds of explained miles on it, and most local reporting says about 600 unexpected miles, and the FBI's VCAP alert also has circulated stating that there are about 900 unaccounted miles, but regardless of whether it was 600 or 900, that is a massive distance. That means after Amber vanished, someone may have driven her car around for hours. I mean, where did they go? Why did they go there? And was that time used to hide evidence or hide Amber? Even the location of the car raised questions. According to FBI, witnesses believe that car had been parked there since September 28th, several days after Amber disappeared. And that matters because Amber disappeared on September 23rd. So if those witnesses were right, that car may have not been sitting there the entire time, which means that it had been moved later. And if that's true, whoever had the car may have been trying to create distance between themselves and the disappearance or stage the scene. Green Bay investigators had publicly said that they believe Amber is deceased. And honestly, when you look at all the evidence, you can kind of understand why they came to that conclusion. A pregnant 19-year-old disappears, her car turns up abandoned, her personal items were left behind, there are unexplained miles on the vehicle, and there are no signs that she accessed her normal life afterwards. And more than 27 years later, Amber has never been found. Green Bay police have said that the case still remains active, and while investigators had also publicly stated that they believe the homicide occurred. This is devastating, because this also means that this is no longer about finding a missing young woman, but it's about finding out who took her life and where she had been taken. One of the most important parts of this case is something incredibly personal: Amber's diary. According to Detective David Graff, Amber's diary became a significant piece of evidence because it helped investigators reconstruct her final days. This is such a heartbreaking detail because, in a way, Amber may have left behind part of the story herself. Investigators have strongly suggested that what she wrote had helped them understand the tensions in her life, the people she was dealing with, and the possible motives tied to her pregnancy. And this doesn't mean that the diary solved the case, but it may have pointed the detectives in a specific direction. From early investigators, detectives have said that they identified a person of interest, the man believed to be the father of Amber's unborn child. According to reporting, investigators said that he was quickly identified, but that he was not cooperative with the police, and Detective Graff later stated that the statements he made, the investigators don't believe that they were true. And this is a very strong statement coming from law enforcement, and again, to be clear, he has never been convicted or charged with Amber's case. But when the detectives publicly say he was a focus early on, he was not cooperative, and they believe that he had lied, that naturally becomes a huge part of the story. And that also raises a painful question. If investigators have believed for years that somebody close to Amber may have known what happened, why has this case never moved forward? Over the years, investigators have followed numerous leads and conducted multiple searches. According to reporting, there were repeated digs in Shawano County based on what police described as credible tips. Amber's family was there for many of these searches, hoping each time that they would finally get answers, but each time they came up empty. The FBI also became involved, and in 2017, the BAU revealed the case to assist investigators. That alone tells you that this was taken seriously, and this was not some forgotten file collecting dust, and that this case is one that law enforcement had revisited, re-examined, and continued to work, and still no Amber. I think one of the reasons this case is so haunting is because Amber did not just disappear. It feels like her future disappeared with her. I mean, she was 19, she was in college, she had goals, and she was about to become a mother. And every detail about this case feels like it points toward a moment where someone else decided that her life and her baby's life were an inconvenience. And that's what makes it so disturbing, because when a young pregnant woman goes missing and the case immediately centers around relationship conflict, fear, secrecy, and a person who allegedly did not want this pregnancy, it becomes impossible not to see a pattern. And yet, after all this time, there is still no arrest. There are so many unanswered questions in Amber's case. I mean, who was the last person to see her alive? Where did all those unexplained miles come from? Was her car driven around to dispose of the evidence? Or was the car moved and staged later? What exactly did Amber's diary reveal? And if investigators had believed for years that this was a homicide, what piece is still missing? Sometimes cold cases don't stay cold because there are no suspects, because they stay cold because there just isn't enough evidence to prove what investigators may already suspected. And that may be exactly what happened here. Today, Amber Wilde would be much older than 19, and she never got the chance to finish college. She never got the chance to become the mother that she was preparing to be. And her family has spent decades waiting for the kind of answer no family should have to beg for. The Green Bay Police Department has said that Amber's case is still active, and the FBI still maintains a public VCAP page for her disappearance, which means someone could still come forward, someone could still tell the truth, someone could still finally explain what happened after 7:16 p.m. on September 23rd, 1998, because people do not just vanish, and Amber Wilde deserves more than silence. And if you've heard this case before, or if you have thoughts after hearing all the details, please let me know in the comments what stands out to you the most. For me, it's the car, the personal items left behind, the seat pushed back, and those unexplained miles. This is one of those details that makes it feels like the truth is somewhere in the evidence, even if it still hasn't been fully uncovered. If you want me to cover more cold cases like this, especially overlooked and lesser known cases, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe if you hadn't already, and I'll see you in the next one. And as always, justice for Amber.